All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the January 7th, 2026 Bruce Township Planning Commission meeting. Our start time is 6:02 p.m. Lisa, would you call the roll, please?
Jay Vincent,
Here.
Hagelstein,
Yes.
Boyce,
Yes.
D. Vincent,
Here.
Blaylock,
Here.
Barnett,
Here.
Cant.
Here.
We have a quorum. So before we start the business part of our meeting, I would ask everybody rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. This is a public business meeting of the Planning Commission, but we do welcome public comments throughout various parts of our agenda. We request that you sign in on the table to my right there along the wall if you haven't already done so. The Planning Commission is made up of 7 Bruce Township residents appointed by the board. In addition, we have Dana Buchanan, our Township Coordinator, who's not with us tonight. So Lisa, thank you for stepping in on her behalf. And also we have Joe Tangari, a professional planner with Giffords Webster, who advises us in the work that we do. There will be opportunities for you to address the Planning Commission this evening during the public comment and public hearings. During that time, we'd ask you keep your comments to 3 minutes, and when you come to the podium, please state your name and address so we have that for the record. Additionally, please address your comments to the commissioners and not anybody directly in the audience. And thank you for your participation this evening. So moving forward within our agenda, we've got the approval of the minutes from the December 3rd meeting. Commissioners, are there any modifications needed for the minutes? And if not, is there a motion to approve the minutes as is?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barnett, seconded by Commissioner Hagelstein. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 5 is the approval of the agenda this evening. Commissioners, any changes needed to the agenda?
Jared, I have
Yes.
a question or a comment. I don't know if it's tantamount to a change, but when I look at the order of business, we have, of course, the continued master plan discussion, then followed by the industrial zoning district moratorium. As I thought through it, since the master plan work we're doing is directly related to the industrial zoning districts, and because we're just about to the point where we would be ready to discuss the criteria, not the criteria, the ins and the outs of the whatever we want to call it, the town hall or the open house. I'm envisioning that depending on where we end up with this charge that we've been given with respect to the moratorium, that there could be potential changes that could drive us to some perhaps different content in the master plan parts of the master plan that deal with the industrial districts. I'm also concerned that if we spend a lot of time on that, we're maybe getting behind with respect to the moratorium because it's only 2 months. So I don't know if Joe has anything
So are you
to add.
proposing that we cover item 11A before 10A?
I don't know. I mean, that's an option, or maybe we just say, let's defer it. I mean, we're not on a timetable, as I recall, with regard to having the open house.
Right, and also, we've got some agritourism, agribusiness discussion that's hanging out there that has to come back to the planning commission, so I don't know that we necessarily need to spend a lot of time on that item this evening. I think we can work on the more pressing.
Which item, just so I understand?
The master plan item. I think we can
Not unless
address the
somebody
other.
has something that's really burning to bring up that, you know.
Yeah.
I thought we beat it to death pretty good last month.
Okay. I guess I would propose we keep the agenda as is. If we get to the master plan discussion and we want to table it until later, after 11A, we can do that,
Sounds good.
if we think it's leading us down that direction.
Sure.
Okay. So based on that, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Cant. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, so agenda's approved. That takes us to our general public comment for this evening. So just to note for the audience, we do have two public hearings, one on the proposed amendments to the lighting ordinance, and also one on a special land use for the Bible Truth Apostolic Church. So if you're here to speak on any of those two items, you can hold those comments for a second. But if you have any general comments you'd like to address the Planning Commission, you can come up at this time and do that. Okay, seeing no one coming for general comments, we'll move on to our public hearings. First up is the proposed amendment to lighting section 161-5.27 of the zoning ordinance. So before we open up public comments for this particular ordinance change, Joe and commissioners, we've got the proposed final wording changes in front of us.
Yep. I can give a quick little summary of kind of what's changing. So first of all, we've added an applicability statement. So when does a site have to come completely into compliance with the lighting regulations? Which is not really addressed in the current language. We've got some clarifying items, such as where to measure whether or not glare is being cast onto an adjacent property. Also, we clarified types of lighting that are prohibited. It's mostly laser point source and things that are mimicking traffic control devices and things like that. We established a 4,000 Kelvin color temperature maximum, and that's essentially to keep lighting from being too harsh. And then we've got a waiver for the uniformity requirements, and there's a criteria for that, and then a call for lighting to automatically dim or be turned off, and we're allowing motion sensors and things to turn those lights back up or on, but outside of operating hours, we're looking for less than maximum lighting on sites. And if there's any questions or comments from the Planning Commission, I think you might have had a question.
I don't know if it's too late because it's a public hearing, but when I was reading through number 11, I just had a thought that there might be a potential that people interpret just by quick reading or not paying close attention, that by saying the maximum of 4,000 Kelvin might be interpreted as a standard instead of an upper limit. So I was thinking about it, and if it said not to exceed 4,000, that it might be a little more clear, but I don't know if it's too late to do a small change like that.
So you're talking about replacing the phrase "be a maximum of" with with "not exceed."
If everybody agrees.
If the rest of the group agrees, that's a change we can make on the table. That's not a
Okay.
problem.
Well, it wouldn't be changing the intent, I don't think.
Exactly.
Right.
No, just, that would make it a little more clear. Yeah. Not to exceed.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Any other thoughts, I guess?
I think it's a good suggestion if we can do it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do it.
Do we have to make a motion? Or
No, what you would be doing is your final motion would be to recommend to the board as revised.
okay.
All right, so we're gonna, I think we have agreement that we would modify the language in item 11 to be the color temperature of all lighting shall not exceed 4,000 Kelvin. Is that what- Okay. Okay. Any other comments from commissioners before we open up the public hearing? Okay. Make a motion to open the public hearing at 6:12 PM.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hagelstein. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, public hearing is open. So again, if you are here to speak on the lighting ordinance change, we'd invite you to come up to the podium now, state your name and address, and share any comments you have on it.
Question. Thomas McMullen, 75699 Elkhorn Drive. Not here, wasn't here initially for the lighting, but I have a question regarding the lighting since it's come up. I had previously brought a concern to the attention of our township supervisor with a commercial business that has some lights that are kind of obnoxious, at least for me. Any changes to the ordinance, it sounds like some of this, what you're addressing might actually address my situation, but is this something that would affect everything going forward, or would it be retroactive? So for an
It affects
existing
everything
property?
Going forward,
Okay.
with the addition of this applicability statement that says if a business does make certain modifications to an extent, they would then be subject to bring their whole business into compliance with the new standard.
Okay. So it won't remedy an existing situation unless business were to make
Correct.
some modifications.
That's correct. Now, I think what we've discussed at previous planning commission meetings is there's instances within the township where businesses are not in compliance with the previous, or what is today the standard. And so if that is continuing to be the case, I would, the action is to take it to the township supervisor for remedy.
Yeah, I believe Mr. Philbrook, his investigation said that it was technically in compliance. So just a little excessive, but
Gotcha.
just one guy's opinion. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Joe, let's cover that, okay. All right, thank you for the question. Any other questions or comments? Okay, make a motion to close the public hearing at 6:14 PM.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hagelstein. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, back to commissioners. I think at this point, we would be looking for a motion to take this to the board.
I'm ready.
All right, well, you started this, so,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to the board recommending acceptance of the zoning ordinance revisions included in Joe Tangari's memo dated December 17th of 2025, with one change would be to item, what's it, C11, where literally the wording will be changed to read, "The color temperature of all lighting shall not exceed 4,000 Kelvin." So any input, further input from fellow commissioners? Hearing none, that's my motion.
I'll second it.
all right, we got a motion by Commissioner Hagelstein, seconded by Commissioner Barnett. If there's no other discussion, would you call the roll, please, Lisa?
Hand,
Yes.
Blaylock,
Yes.
Barnett,
Yes.
D. Vincent,
Yes.
Boyce,
Yes.
Hagelstein,
Yes.
J. Vincent.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay. Thanks for all your effort on that, Rick, to help spearhead some changes and improvements, so we're excited to see that.
Well, it was a team effort, multiple provided input, so, thanks to the team.
All right, moving along, that takes us to item 7B, the special land use for Bible Truth Apostolic Church.
I can,
Ready to go? I don't know if there's a representative here to give an overview of the project. If you'd like to come up and just give us a quick overview before we have Joe give us his his planning overview.
Good evening. Never done this before, so bear with me.
All good.
My name is Pastor John Davidson. I represent Bible Truth Apostolic Church. We have some of our elders here with us as well, our church secretary. Our endeavor is to build a church, obviously, on this property. We have outgrown our church. We are a family-oriented church, and obviously, we tried looking for other places, but it seemed like God guided us to this spot and this land, and we believe it'll be awesome for generations to come to be able to worship. I think it'll be awesome for our community, for all those around to us, and we hope to be a blessing to Romeo and all those that come and that would want to be a part of what we're doing. So we're asking if we could please put our, I think we're looking for a residential, to market as residential instead of commercial, to put our building on this property.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
We're going to have Joe put together just kind of an overview for the planning commissioners, so we're going to turn it over to him.
Okay.
We may have some additional questions for you.
Yes, sir.
but, we'll go from there.
Thanks, Jared. So we're looking at a vacant parcel on the east side of M53. It's a little south of Ebling Road. It's owned R1 residential, and a place of worship is special land use in the R1 residential district, which is why there's a public hearing tonight. They're proposing a 24,000 square foot church. Floor plan shows a main worship area with 434 seats, multi-purpose room, some childcare facilities, and 6 classrooms. It's going to be served by a single boulevarded entrance to M53. This is a 20-acre site. They are really using the western portion of the site. They're leaving the eastern portion of the site pretty much untouched. Looking at the surrounding zoning, it's all R1 or R1A. The R1A is across M53 to the west. So there's that hornworm growing facility to the north, and single-family small farms or vacant property in all other directions. Looking at the setback standards, they are exceeding the setbacks in every direction, in particular in the rear, which is where you have the adjacent 50 feet, and they're at 743 feet. I did note that we didn't have a height labeled for the building. We had the highest eave at 26 feet. We didn't have a label on the ridge of the roof. Steeple is permitted as an exception to the height limit of the district. We would like to know how tall it is for the purposes of approval, but didn't see those labels on there. There is a appearance standard for non-residential buildings within 200 feet of the front lot line, and that requires certain materials. This building actually is not within 200 feet of the front lot line. However, they do meet the standard anyway. Looking at parking, we found that 144 spaces were required, and they're providing 145. One thing I did want is for the applicant to address their operations. It seems as though the child care and classroom facilities are being used primarily during worship and other ceremonies, and then the multi-purpose room is not going to be used at the same time as the main worship hall, but I'd just like them to confirm that. I did note that they have a kind of pedestrian area between parking spaces in the front lot, and some form of protection for that would be advisable, because you just don't want cars pulling all the way into it and blocking people's path to the front door. And that could be in the form of bumper blocks or curbing or whatever worked for the applicant. We didn't have a landscaping plan. There are symbols on the plan that indicate 18 trees, but we didn't have any kind of details about what those would be. Landscape islands are required to be curbed in our ordinance as well. The outer edge of the parking lot isn't, but the islands are. So we don't have a detailed review of landscaping. I did note that Section 519 requires a green belt, typically with a fence or wall or berm between any non-residential use and an existing residential use. Neighboring residential uses are to the east and south. Looking at the existing conditions, there's already a substantial vegetated buffer along the entire southern property line, so there's not really a need to plant additional if they're not removing that. Looking along the eastern property line, which is where the neighboring subdivision is, the existing vegetation is located largely on the neighboring property, which is held as a common element by the neighboring subdivision. You could consider what might be most appropriate along that property line. A wall would be totally out of character with the area, but perhaps a couple of evergreens to fill in thin spots if you think it's necessary. Of course, there is a 743-foot setback, I will note that, but it is something to look at and discuss with the applicant. We have some standards for places of worship, and those are all met. They are showing a trash enclosure on their plans. I think I located it on the plan, but it's not labeled on the plan, so I just wanted to confirm that that was actually the place where it's being proposed to be put, near the southwestern corner of the building. And then we need a couple of adjustments to the lighting plan, but they are fairly minor. And if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
I've got a question for you, Joe, regarding the lighting plan. Looking at the drawing, I didn't quite fully understand it. Because our ordinance, we're talking about 1,600 lumens per lamp, correct?
Yeah, we have a limit, not the
Okay.
maximum.
So the drawing on the lighting deal is showing 16,741 per lamp for the fixtures marked A, and then for the B fixtures, 4,227.
Right, yeah, so that would need to be adjusted, right?
So, but,
The A fixtures anyway.
okay, but I mean, it's our ordinance, we're talking lumens, right? This,
But just to clarify, this plan would be on the current ordinance, not the one we just talked about.
right,
Okay.
the 1,600 limit is in the current ordinance,
Yeah,
okay?
okay.
So how do we reconcile that?
Let's take a look.
I'm wondering, since the number is so much higher, whether that's a cumulative wattage for all the fixtures that are either A or B?
It's possible. Yeah, we would want that clarified. I mean, they're going to be making adjustments to the ratios and everything too, so.
I mean, we should be communicating, if I got this right, that additive for each one of those fixture variants, it times the, or the total number divided by the planned number of fixtures should not exceed 1,600 lumens, right?
Sure. Yeah, right.
Okay. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now, let me see if I had anything else. I think that was it for now.
Go for it.
Joe, can you speak to your colleagues' engineering report, or should we wait on that?
If you have a specific question about it, I'll do my best.
Thank you, I do. It's pretty lengthy in terms of the comments, maybe a little bit more than we usually get, probably nothing that can't be overcome. But I was confused about his final recommendation here in the final he seems to be asking for a revised site plan, that it be resubmitted. Is that before we do anything here?
I think in this case, because there is so much land available to make adjustments, I think the revised plan can be for engineering review. Because they've got to get into more detail on the volume of that pond. And we can provide a conditional approval that.
We being here tonight, if we choose.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. It is a lot more than we usually get.
Right, yeah, and I think there was a certain lack of detail that he was struggling with in terms of volume and flow across the site. We have a general sense of where the water is flowing and how. It's mostly a matter of how that pond gets designed. If it's coming straight off the pavement, there's got to be some filtering before it goes into the larger body of the pond. And that's a big part of his comment was about the forebay. And those are all design details of the stormwater management system.
Okay, all right. I have a few questions for the applicant. Do you want to do it now or wait?
I think that's fine.
So just to understand, are you going to close your existing church?
We would be selling it, most likely. It's in Rochester, Michigan right now. Our plan is to sell it once we get this building built, so we can hopefully, Jesus' name, recoup the money.
Congregation would be all in the location in Bruce Township?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then the Youth Education Center, would be for things like Sunday school or catechism, Bible
Yes,
study?
correct.
Okay. And I guess it's a good time to get to the question Joe was kind of raising. When will the youth education take place?
It would take place, we have 2 services on Sunday. So 10 a.m., we usually have song and worship. And then around 10:20, 10:15, I get up and do a sermon for about an hour. So during that hour, so around 10:20 to 11:20, the children will be in their Sunday school and then come out.
Okay, and would they, I'm not sure how your church works.
Sure.
Do they like have a once a week where they come after school for, like more study? Or is it just Sundays?
Nope, we will actually, it'll be, it'll absolutely be for studies. We intend for them we'll be having a Christian school there as well. But there will not be service going on except for Monday evening, Wednesday evening, and then 2 services on Sunday.
Okay, so it will basically be Sunday and then in the evening.
Yes, ma'am.
And then in terms of, Joe wanted to ask a question, I think, about the meeting room facility.
Yes, ma'am.
How is that to be used in connection with the timing?
The meeting room?
Yeah.
How would that be? During church service, I don't believe it will be used, just the classrooms.
Correct.
So that would be used for like Bible studies. Oh, you're talking about the fellowship room?
Yes.
Are we talking about the, just so is it not the food room, you're not talking about the fellowship hall?
One on the north side, I think.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
on the north side.
of the building.
And it shows how many tables.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yes, ma'am, the cafeteria. Okay, yes, the cafeteria would not be inhabited simultaneously. So once we're out of church, like if we're maybe doing a church luncheon or a dinner, then they would come after, but it would not be going on simultaneously.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That cover yours?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the heart of it is we want to make sure that we don't have overlapping, which
Yes.
I imagined would be the case, but you always have to confirm.
Okay. And then you're the pastor, I think you said?
Yes, ma'am.
You're not going to live on the property?
I'm not. I'm 10 minutes from it, actually.
Okay. Okay. And then, how about, I didn't think I saw this on the plan, but are you going to have a garage or somewhere where you store equipment for
It's a good question.
yard work and stuff?
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. We do plan on eventually building perhaps some kind of a pole barn or so, hopefully, obviously to store stuff, different things that need to be stored. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, yes, ma'am. We do plan on doing that in the future.
So that would be a ladder addition?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then I guess the key thing I have is you've got half the property that's all unused.
Mhm.
What is the plan for that? It's a big piece of property.
It is, and we're so thankful for it. So our plan for my hope and for the future would be to eventually build perhaps another building behind that in the future for our Christian school, for our children to go and attend. Perhaps we'd like to have a pavilion so our church could have, obviously, if we want to celebrate the 4th of July there, picnics, maybe even just extracurricular activities to be put onto the property, perhaps even maybe a ball field, just things like that if the township would permit, just things that could be a blessing to our church and our people.
Right now, when you mention a school, are you talking about something like a kindergarten or K through?
It would be K through 12, yes, ma'am. That's our hopes, is for our Christian school to be behind our church right now, as in another building, to where they could pull around back, drop off their children, and kind of leave from there. But to have something for the future for our kids to go to school there. Yes, ma'am.
Joe, I know that schools are an SLU also in the R1 district.
Correct.
Basically,
So
any
we-
residential district. Would that be a separate application and a separate SLU?
Yes.
So there's, okay, thanks.
Yep. Yeah, it would require essentially the same meeting again.
Okay. I'm done.
Okay, since we're asking you questions, got one for you, another lighting question. I see in your lighting plan that you do not have any building-mounted lights identified.
Okay. Our architect just texted me, and he said for the lighting issues, he said he will provide an updated plan for anything that is required this evening. He will update that and make sure that you all have a copy of that.
Okay, thank you. And just one thing I wanted to bring to your attention.
Yes, sir.
The lighting ordinance that applies to your application is the one that's existing, the existing ordinance on the books, not the one that we just voted on.
Right.
They're very similar, but we got some additional constraints.
Yes, ma'am.
But
Sir.
included within the existing, it says that the lighting sources, bulbs, or lenses for non-residential property shall not be visible from adjoining properties or rights of way. So I just want to bring that to your attention, that if you do modify your lighting plan to include building-mounted lights, what's popular, they're called wedge fixtures. I'm not sure if you've seen them. They look like a wedge, and they only shine downward. They don't have outward emitting light.
Okay.
So that would be, one option for you, probably the more popular option to include.
Okay.
And just want to bring it to your attention because you're going to do that. We don't want you to have to do it twice.
Sure. No, I appreciate it.
So on that, I think, just in light of the fact that you've talked about plans for future, potentially future investment into this property, that could likely trigger the applicability standard of the ordinance that we just,
Well, yeah, it would.
because of the amount of change that could happen. So is there a way to have them review the proposed new lighting ordinance so that it's not going to, like, if this was to all play out and, I don't know, 2 years from now, you come back, we wouldn't want you to have to necessarily go through and redo lighting that you just submitted.
Right. Yeah, I think staff could share it with them.
Okay.
And there wouldn't be substantial changes.
Right.
I don't think it would be that crazy. Like they're gonna have to completely rethink anything. But they might make an adjustment or two.
Okay.
But yeah, staff could definitely share that.
So what we're getting at here
Yes,
is
sir.
that we cannot make you do anything. What we can do is ask if you would be willing to consider, in this case,
We're willing to
your
comply.
lighting plan to the new ordinance standard. You saw that we voted 7-1. There's no guarantee. This needs to go before the board
7-0.
yet. But,
7-0,
I'm sorry, what did I say?
7-1.
7-1, I'm sorry.
Planning commission.
Math, my favorite. Thank you, Lord. So, yeah, so 7-0.
Yes.
And, there's always a possibility the board could go the opposite direction, but I'm not betting on it.
Yes, sir.
So it would, forward-looking, it could potentially save you some additional expense.
Okay.
And along those lines, another element within the new ordinance, you heard us discuss the Kelvin limit.
Yes, sir.
So your lighting plan has, I believe it on the multi-light poles, it has a mixture of 5,000 and 4,000 Kelvin. We limited everything above 4,000 because especially 5,000 Kelvin is a blue light. It's considered daylight. It's more task lighting that you'd see inside of a warehouse.
Yes, sir.
So since the person that's working for you said he's going to be making some revisions, we're just asking for you and he to consider that as well.
Yes, sir. Our engineer is actually watching live as well, so
Perfect.
that helps out. So, Tyler, you hear that?
And one last thing, I've been a planning commissioner for approximately 6 years. This is the nicest drawing package I've seen. Very well done, thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you. We appreciate that. We tried.
Do you happen to know, Joe had a question on the overall height of the building. Do you know what?
We do. Now, I talked to our engineer. It is 40 feet, and I know he said on average the maximum capacity was 35 feet, but for the Bruce Township, I think is it 30? I'm not sure.
That's the requirement, yes.
So we would ask if we could get a variance on that.
Isn't the height the average between the eaves and the peak?
Yes, I
not the
believe
peak.
that's what he's referring
Yeah.
to.
Or, well,
Yeah.
not the,
I believe,
It's not the ridge of the building, it's halfway between the ridge and the
Yeah.
yeah,
right,
edge of the building, right?
yeah,
but I believe that's what he's referring to, is that halfway point.
yeah.
Yeah, that peak, that very peak would be 40 feet.
He was talking about the peak, not where we measured.
But you're saying the halfway is 35, is that what you just?
I'm not sure what the halfway would be. I do know that it was,
Halfway between
what was the height on
It's
it?
halfway between 26 and 40, so.
Yeah, 26 and 40.
37,
33.
33.
And we're at 30.
30.
Yeah, so
So that would have to go to the ZBA,
it would have
right?
to go to the ZBA, yeah. Steeple is fine because that's an acceptable exception, but,
Do you have a height on the steeple?
You know, not exactly, and because we're not fully, obviously we worked with our engineer on that, the drawing, the architect, but we weren't fully sold on the one we have now. So the height may change on that. We're not sure quite yet. But when we get a final on that, obviously we'll make sure that you guys are okay with it. But as far as the steeple height, I'm not 100% on. I know it won't be like 50 feet or anything. It'll most likely be whatever the standard is.
So did you, I don't know if you caught the nuance in terms of if you want the roof to be the height where you've got it now, that if this commission were to approve your request for an SLU and this, based on this preliminary plan, that if you want to proceed with keeping the roof as it's designed now, the variance for this has to go to our ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals,
Okay.
which is a separate body, and they will make that decision based on your application.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
the roof height. Other questions, commissioners, for the applicant or for Joe? If we got both of them.
Well, Joe, what would you recommend if they don't have a height for the steeple? And in your notes, we should know what we're approving. So what do we do?
Right. So we don't have like a maximum that it can go up to necessarily in the ordinance. The exception simply states that there is a kind of a group of things that can exceed the height limit, and a steeple happens to be one of them. So, in terms of what's being reported to the planning commission and what you're voting on, I think we will definitely need an actual height, when they're coming to the permitting phase. But I'd like to at least know what's on the plan now, if they can give us a ballpark. And they'll probably be in the same ballpark, but
Comparable buildings?
yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, without like it can only be up to 2/3 taller or something kind of standard, like there's sort of like, well, what are we actually doing there other than knowing?
Yeah, so there's not really a mechanism for us to put a limit on that.
Yeah, not really. I mean, unless for some reason you felt that it was, your state special land use standards do state that you're not supposed to be creating kind of like externalities or something.
Yeah.
So if you felt that, a certain degree of extra height was excessive for those purposes, then say something about that.
Do you have a ballpark idea of what?
What was it?
So I talked to our engineer today. He wasn't the architect that made the plans, and I had seen that in the review note, so I asked him, hey, what is our height on the steeple? He said if their drawing was according to scale, that from the ground to the top, it would be 70.
Okay. So that's projecting an additional 30 feet above the ridge of the roof.
Is that usual in the case of a church with a steeple?
That's pretty, yeah, I mean, it's proportional at least. I mean, if you look into, in, downtown Romeo, you've got a couple of spires down there. Those are taller churches, of course, but, yeah, I don't think it's terribly disproportionate. It's less
trying to
than
think,
twice
don't you?
as tall as the.
I'm just trying to think of the other churches we have in Bruce Township. The Orchards, we have, right down here, Harvest Fellowship, we've got the Lutheran Church on 32 Mile Road. Just trying to envision it.
I've got a church on Benjamin, South Main. So I'm trying to figure out the height of the one I got. I think ours is probably, I don't think we're over 70. We're probably at least 70.
On a much smaller building.
Near wood building, yeah.
Because this is 24,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Your building's not anywhere near that.
No, not even close.
Well, you look at like, the Abbey or the
Yeah, the
Methodist
Abbey is what I
Church
was
or-
thinking. That's really tall.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the projection above the ridge is less than half of the height of the ridge, so.
I'm not a church designer, but Google says that proportionally you should aim for 1 to 1.25 feet of steeple height for every foot of church peak height. So,
It's about there.
It's roughly in that ballpark.
yeah.
They would be.
I second that.
Yeah. I second it, yeah.
Google says it must be true.
I do promise it won't be obnoxious.
Do you know where the trash enclosure will be?
Yeah, if you look at the drawings of the parking lot, Yeah, I believe it's on page 4 of the engineering plans. It's going to be at the, is it the southwest corner?
Okay, so it's where I identified it, it's not labeled on the plan, so it's shown, but there's just not a label pointing to
I
it.
think that's an acceptable location
Yeah,
under
that's-
our ordinance.
Yeah, because the distance that they are from the front property line, yeah. Right.
Joe, the landscape plan, is that something that is required or could be handled in an engineering review?
Well, we would review it administratively prior to, because engineering won't review that in detail, but
Sure.
I could review it administratively if you thought that, you were okay with making it a condition. And they are showing some, it's just that we don't have the details of species and things like that we would typically need.
Okay. So they don't, I guess that's what I'm trying to, is a landscaping plan required to be submitted, or they just need additional details on what they have submitted?
Well, yeah,
Either way.
they need to flesh out what they've proposed and make sure that standards are being met, so.
Okay. Okay. Da, 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 da.
So they have the beginnings of a landscape plan. It's just
Okay.
not a full landscape plan.
I think you heard Joe talk about just the green belts and kind of requirements there. On the south part of the property, there is existing vegetation, or would you anticipate leaving that to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir, we would. And just as a side note, we would be willing to comply to put any more buffer around anything that would need to be planted. We'd be happy to comply with all that.
Okay. That was going to be my next question, is on the east part, which would back up to the subdivision behind you, if
Yes.
additional.
Yes, we would put evergreens, whatever would need to be there. If a berm needed to be there, evergreens, we'd be happy to comply with that. Yes, sir.
And Joe, is that somewhat subjective in terms of what the PC is comfortable with? What makes up the berm?
To a degree, yeah. I mean, I think you're asking them to make sure that there's full coverage there. So, I mean, if you look at what's there now, I mean, it's mostly on the neighboring property. What's there now.
Okay,
So typically, the screening is on the subject property.
okay. Okay. All right, any other questions for Joe or the applicant before we open up the public hearing? All right, we're going to give you a break.
Thank you.
We're going to open up the public hearing and see if anybody from the audience would like to speak. And so-
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. All right, I would make a motion to open the public hearing for the special land use, 6:51 PM.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Jay Vincent, seconded by Commissioner Barnett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, public hearing is open for this special land use request, so if anyone's here to speak on it, please come to the podium. State your name and address, and please share your comments with commissioners.
James Schollenberger, 12295 Bugle Lake Drive. I abut the property directly. I'm one of the 4 people directly behind the property. I don't really have any concerns. Well, my only concerns were, coming into the meeting, were the buffer between the property on the east side. We have deciduous trees. They're all empty now, so I can see M53. I'd prefer to have something that stays, evergreens, obviously, to block that. The other issue was the lighting, and something like that may have been addressed. I don't know if there's any lights along the back of the building. I assume there must be some. Again, I like to have it dark. We moved out to the country to be, country-ish. And the only other thing that you might want to consider, and I don't know if you already have, is the traffic on M53 goes awfully fast, and there's a lot of accidents along by Northern Farm Market. And if there's going to be a right turn lane to pull off out of traffic before somebody stops to pull into the church, I don't know the traffic volume, if it's only Sundays or if it's going to be during the week after school. Rush hour, that can be quite interesting through there sometimes. So that's my only comment. But again, my main concern is the lighting and the buffer between on the east side. Like I say, it's all deciduous trees right now. It's, I can see M53. So
Yeah. Okay.
thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thomas McMullen, once again, 75699 Elkhorn. So you've all heard from us before at Elkhorn Estates with regard to this specific parcel. Honestly, of the options that we've been presented thus far, this is the least objectionable. Being realistic and knowing that a vacant parcel is not always going to be a farm field, this reality. But this is certainly a much more palatable use of that property. Came into the meeting, though, understanding that we had this substantial setback from, Elkhorn property to the back of the church, and now learning tonight that there's potential for that area to be developed into a school building. I'm glad to know that that would be something that would require yet another hearing, because honestly, I don't know that that would be in the best interests of the neighboring properties. Mark has already, discussed the greenery situation, or the green belt, if you will. I would ask that in addition to trees, that, that it's a combination of trees and berm, and that if we have a say that the trees be an evergreen or something along those lines to make up for, the deciduous trees that are currently there. And as, the board is aptly noted, the trees are, the existing trees are on the Elkhorn property. It was a farm field. Of course, there's no trees on this parcel. It's bare land. So, we're looking for screening. Very pleased that the board has enacted some lighting restrictions, and urged the petitioner here to abide by the new standard if it's so adopted. Anything we can do to minimize the impact on the neighboring residential, even though that it's not in my backyard, it's close enough. You've had some discussion about the overall height, 40 feet. It seems a little high. And if it exceeds standards, I'd ask you to stick to the standards and ask that the height be limited to what the standards are. And if the steeple if there's an exception for the steeple, so be it. But trying to keep it as least obtrusive as possible. Certainly, we want to be good neighbors, and I'm sure that the church will do their part to be good neighbors. Do have some questions directly for the church, if it's appropriate for me to ask.
No, we would like you to address
Pose them to the planning commission.
Okay, well, if you could ask.
Sure.
You discussed about the days of use. You know, it sounds like there's services twice on Sunday and 2 weeknights, Monday, Wednesday. If we get there was a mention of a Christian school. Is this only during church services, or is this a Christian school that's actually operating during normal school Monday through Friday hours? You know, because it was stated there is a Christian school currently, but they're looking to expand it. The other question would be bells. You know, is this steeple going to have a bell? And, you know, do we have ordinances that restrict when those would be sounded, if that's even an issue? So those are really the only couple of issues or concerns that I have, and I appreciate the board's time and attention.
All right, thank you.
Matt Power, 75504 Elkhorn. I too was here at the prior meetings for this parcel, which I did object to. But as from what I'm hearing here tonight, I am definitely leaning towards it. The only thing that caught me by surprise was the buffer was 700 feet. Everything was really good there, but then his future plans. He said possibly a ball field, a pavilion. Now, you know, we come out here and it's very quiet. And obviously that's, you know, part of the expense we pay here to have, you know, high taxes. And I would prefer that to stay that way. So obviously the greenery, right now, the leaves are all down. That would have to be pretty heavy to help my neighbors block that view. Other than that, I have no objection to, you know, the church. But that was my concern about the lighting. You did suggest the lights come down. We do have a problem with the worm farm shining into our neighborhood. So as long as that doesn't happen with this, I have no objection. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing no one else moving to the podium, I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing at 7 p.m.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Cant. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Discussion is back to the commission. Any other thoughts or questions? Discussion?
Just a couple observations, Jared.
Okay.
For what it's worth. I actually did note this before. I think we have 4 other churches currently in the community, and they are all on a well-paved road, McKay, Van Dyke, 32-mile road. The exception is the one next door, which is completely embedded in a residential area.
Yeah.
In fact, the Orchards Church is 24,412 square feet, which is, I believe, almost spot on to what this proposal is. So I think that it's consistent with what we've had before. Grace Lutheran is the next biggest one, and that's with their additional building there, it's, I think, roughly just over 20,000 square feet. So they're definitely in the ballpark in terms of what we've already approved. Again, I don't know what the building heights are, and the pastor has said he understands that if they want to go, I think it would, right now, looking like 2 to 3 feet above what the standard is. He understands he has to go to the ZBA to get that approved. And he did answer the one question about the use of it's not a school, they are classrooms. He said that they would only be used during service time. So I think that question has been answered. And any expansion of that into a separate school would be totally another future special land use. So we're not talking about that right now.
Can you confirm that, just so we're clear? Yeah, great.
So to be clear, we have a Christian school right now in our church currently. They go Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. right now. So for our next church, we would do the same, that we would have a school Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. The vision is to have a building behind it so we can have a K through 12 running separate from the church building, so we're not using it for the same thing, because right now we're using our Sunday school rooms as our school classrooms at this point. We run currently about 50 children right now, K through 12. And also, just to address the concerns of these gentlemen, we appreciate their concerns, and we will do our best to not impose on what they have said. And we'll plant what we need to plant and do what we need to do to make sure that we meet their concerns.
Okay, so just so, if you don't mind of it.
Go ahead, because I'm probably going to ask the same question you are.
So from a days of use, I think it's fair to say it's all 7. Right, I mean, certainly Sunday, Monday,
it's used,
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, it's used 5 days out of the
5
7.
days.
Yes, sir.
We talked about the school days of operation, and then
Bells?
there's no bell in the steeple design. Are there noise
We have
outside of the building?
No, sir. We have no design with a bell. As far as a school, we don't do a school bell. There will not be a school bell.
That includes speaker electronic bells as well?
Yeah, nothing. Yes, sir. Thank you for asking that. Yeah, we have nothing like that. We're gonna, I mean, and just to let you know, the building, there's 15 acres from our building to the back parcel. So that's 15 acres of nothing. I intend for our children to have a playground close to the church, so it won't be way in the back so everybody can hear them playing all the time. So it will be close to the building, so hopefully that helps with noise.
Okay.
Get clarity on one more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
So you have in your current facility, your
Yes,
current
ma'am.
church, you have a current school in there.
I do.
Okay, and the K through 12 are in the little classrooms that are
Yes,
also
ma'am.
used for Sunday school. Is that going away when you move to the new church?
Sounded like it's
No,
coming.
No, he said it's coming.
It's coming.
He's gonna do
Okay,
it.
Yes, ma'am. We're going to
So-
transition until we can build the building
okay, so.
behind it for
I
the
was
school.
confused about that. I'm glad you brought it up.
No problem.
So every day, then, we can expect traffic for 50 kids right now, thereabout,
Yes, ma'am.
to come in and out for their
Yep, for school.
regular school day.
Yes, ma'am. And with the engineer, I spoke with him. We're going to be working with MDOT to deal with all the traffic concerns.
Okay.
Yeah, MDOT will be the issuing authority for a driveway permit. So in order to connect M53, they have to work.
Right. Okay.
So MDOT, if they felt the need, could require, for instance, acceleration and deceleration lanes.
Well, an observation now based on the clarification is on 20 acres at R1A, they could probably put, I don't know, 10 houses? No,
Yeah.
So-
10 houses.
10 houses on 2-acre lots are gonna be houses with kids, and they're probably gonna be a lot more traffic than in and out from the school.
Wait a minute, this is currently zoned, what is it again?
R1.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Now, I'm not speaking to the traffic that could be involved if they built a whole separate building and they have, you know, they're looking to increase their enrollment.
Right. That's something that would need to be studied at the time, yeah.
Well, it's not unlike, I believe, that Grace Lutheran has a school, or I don't know if it's just a preschool
Preschool.
or if it's anything else. I'm not sure about the other churches in the area.
Okay. So just to clarify what we talked about earlier, this SLU would cover the church and the school functioning. Joe, you mentioned there'd be a separate SLU in the future, but that is specifically for an additional building.
For an additional building.
Okay.
yeah, it would be-
Yeah, okay. Not for the use to change, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, because you'd be very much expanding an existing use, so you need that special land use approval to do that.
Okay. Commissioners, any other comments or questions? Hearing none, is someone like to make a motion on this proposed SLU?
Quick reminder, this is special land use, so it's a motion to recommend approval to the board, who would act in 2 weeks.
Why are you guys looking at me? I thought you were writing a motion, you have all that stuff written
Making
down.
notes. I can do that if nobody else wants to.
Being encouraged to do so.
Yeah, I feel that way. I think I
Silence speaks loud.
write a lot of, I think I make a lot of motions, though. Uh, All right, I'll go ahead and make a motion. If there's things that other commissioners feel are missing from the motion, please, let's talk about it after I'm done. So I would make a recommendation to the board to approve a special land use request for the, I'm going to hopefully say this right this time, since I think I said it wrong before.
No
Bible
problem.
Truth Apostolic
Apostolic, yes, sir.
Church, located on parcel 14-01-14-300-010, to allow a place of worship on a 20-acre R1 residentially zoned parcel located on Van Dyke. The approval would be conditional upon the following. A approval from the ZBA for a 33 height building, 33-foot building height, as that will exceed our ordinance by 3 feet. Conditional upon an acceptable landscape plan being provided that includes clarification on the trees, types of trees, and additional details that are required to be curbed for the landscape islands, as well as additional berm and or screening on the rear, on the east boundary of the property. And as well as subject to approval and remediation of the items included in the engineering plan review. And subject to, or I should say conditional upon a remediation of the parking curb. The
Parking island curbing?
no, this was the pedestrian pathway protection.
Pedestrian, yeah.
So let me rephrase that. So that'd be conditional upon remediation of the pedestrian pathway protection as mentioned in the planner's comments.
I believe the revised lighting plan is.
And subject to a revised lighting plan. What are we missing on that? Is it the?
It's the clarification of the lumen output, and then also for the applicant to consider a revised lighting plan to the, how would we call it? It's not approved,
The proposed lighting ordinance.
lighting ordinance revisions.
All right, so that'd be subject to clarification of the lumen output and a request for the applicant to consider updates to the new proposed lighting ordinance.
The uniformity ratio is also, needs to be revised, so.
And a revision of the uniformity ratio. Okay.
Should we call out that they have 18 trees, but they need 24? So not only do we need to know more details about them, but there needs to be more?
So I did mention a,
Revised landscaping plan.
yeah, subject to a revised landscaping plan, so I think it's covered in there. Like,
Okay.
if they don't have those trees, it wouldn't be considered acceptable.
You could know revised and compliant landscaping plan or something.
Okay,
That would-
revised and compliant landscaping plan.
And then do we need to mention that they verbally said they would be leaving the buffer on the south side of the property?
Yeah, we can, conditional upon applicant leaving vegetation on the south side of the property or agreeing to replace it as per the ordinance.
And Joe, do we need to say anything about the steeple? Or knowing that it's about 30 feet right now, it's probably not going to vary that much. You don't need to mention it.
Yeah, I don't, I think you could note that you were comfortable with the proposed steeple height. If there's a massive change to it, we can address that at the time, but it's within a couple feet.
I would say subject to steeple design, not I'm trying to think how to state that not, wouldn't vary significantly as proposed.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah, as proposed scale. Okay, anything else you think that we missed?
Jared, I have a question about, and I didn't write it down fast enough. You said, did you say a berm and/or trees along the easterly property line?
I did.
You want to nail that down a little bit more?
Well, there's specific requirements in section 10, section 519. So I'm open to modifying that.
Generally, what you'd require is a wall or fence. Obviously, a wall is just, no, let's not do that here. But a berm is an acceptable substitute, and then you would put your plantings on top of that. I think that's what you're looking for, is berm with
on
top.
Yep.
Berm with trees on top, preferably evergreen.
Yes, sir.
Evergreen trees.
Yeah, with evergreen trees on top. Okay.
May I make one suggestion to the first condition?
Yes, which,
That was the height.
Okay.
So you noted that they have to get a height variance. I would say they can get a height variance or reduce the height.
or reduce the height, yeah.
That way, it's their choice. If they reduce
Right.
the height, then they're good. And if they don't, then they go to the zoning board.
So we would amend that first condition to be subject to an approval on the height variance from the zoning board or a reduction in the height to meet the standard.
No problem.
Any other comments?
I'll second it.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Jay Vincent, seconded by Commissioner Barnett. Please, would you call the roll, please?
Blaylock,
Yes.
Barnett,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Jay Vincent,
Yes.
Boyce,
Yes.
Hagelstein,
Yes.
Stevenson.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. So what'll happen now is it'll go to the Township Board 2 weeks from tonight.
Yes, sir.
And I think anything we can do to get some of these items cleaned up between now and then will help.
We will do.
All right.
Thank you guys very much. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Good job. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody, and thanks for the help on the motion. I think there was a team effort there. Item 8 is reviews. We have none. Item 9 is communications. We have none. So that takes us to item 10A, which is our master plan discussion.
Which, based on earlier discussion, I think we were considering deferring master plan discussion to a future meeting, pending subcommittee guidance on agritourism and agribusiness, the outcome of data center discussion that we're going to begin tonight, data center and other intensive industrial uses discussion that we're going to be doing tonight.
Okay. You're welcome to, we won't be offended if
You
you
are
leave.
welcome to leave.
Yep, thank you.
Nice.
We love the company, but
Joe, so if we defer that, there's nothing active. The next step in our master plan process is to schedule the town halls, I believe.
ultimately, yes, but I think we'll be doing a fair amount of review of content before we do that. So
Okay.
I think we're going to be on pause for at least a month or two, perhaps, and then we will reconvene based on what we get.
Right. I think we talked about at the last meeting, about having it, posting it somewhere else, as in the community center. So it would still be in the same basic driving distance for everybody, but more space. So Joe talked about, we'd have stuff on placards, so
Right.
people could go up and look.
Okay.
And I think Dana was going to look into the availability and how much room that would actually provide.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like then the plan would be to just defer master plan discussion for this evening. We've got some other items to discuss that would be potentially playing into that, so if there's no objections, that will be our intent. Hearing none, let's move on to 10B, agribusiness and agritourism.
In the same bunch.
In the same vein, we will defer that to future discussion. And Joe, any updates on 5G?
No.
That takes us to item 11A, which is our industrial zoning district moratorium. And commissioners, I believe Joe has provided two different documents.
So I've provided one, and then
Oh, okay.
the township has provided another, and then Mandy also provided one.
I didn't give that to everybody,
Oh, okay.
but I can share it after a discussion with anyone who would like it.
Sure. So the two documents that you all have, one will be the Township Board's motion from its special meeting of December 22nd. And that is when they enacted, I'll call it a short moratorium, a 2-month moratorium on applications in the C1 and IRO zoning districts to give the Planning Commission the opportunity to assess vacant parcels in those districts, allow for applicants to apply for permits under current zoning usage, or require special land use based on either building size, lot size, and or utility usage. So that's the environment we're working in right now. We're not accepting applications this month or next.
So I just need to make one clarification. So it was LI1 and IRO, not C1.
Oh, okay, I was going to say that struck
And
me as odd.
the title of moratorium on data centers should not be there. And, as we go forward, I don't think that we should be referring to moratorium on data centers. I think we should more focus on what our goals are for the township, what we're trying to safeguard the township from.
Sure.
And focus on that regardless of the use.
Right.
So this is a draft minutes, it looks like.
It is.
It is. They
yes.
haven't been approved yet.
Yep.
Okay, good. So you'll get that taken care of?
They will present it at the next board meeting. So we'll address that with them at the board at that time.
Yep. Yeah, we're talking about high-intensity industrial uses. Data centers certainly are the impetus for the discussion. That's the particular use that led us to be talking about this in the first place. As you're all likely aware, over the last year, they have kind of burst onto the scene, and they went from being on no one's radar to being on everyone's radar in a very short amount of time. So I've provided a quick memo here between the 22nd and today. Obviously, there weren't a whole lot of work days necessarily because of the timing, time of year. But this is intended just to sort of shape the discussion we have tonight so that we can then move forward from there. So, we do have this fast-moving issue that rose to prominence in Michigan with several proposals across the state, including in our neighbor Washington Township. It's a rapidly evolving issue. Separating data from speculation is one of our challenges, of course, as with any new thing. Determining the best course of regulation is going to require a review of a fairly large amount of information and some targeted discussion. So the moratorium, as noted, it's a 2-month moratorium on applications of any kind in the IRO and LI1 districts. The board directed the PC to investigate how various kinds of applications will be handled under our existing ordinance and make recommendations on how to best protect or position the township going forward. And just looking at kind of a list of high-intensity industrial uses that we might be considering here. Things such as gas production, battery production, battery storage facilities, those may or may not be high intensity. It really depends on the storage facility. Carbon capture projects, mining, which is very heavily regulated at the state level. There's a fair amount of preemption, but there are some things we can do on that particular use. Steel or auto manufacturing, power plants. You wouldn't generally classify a wind farm as industrial. They are related. We're not considered to have adequate wind resources to support them, but worth keeping in the discussion. We do have some standards for them. Heavy metallurgy, chemical production, cement manufacturing, stone cutting, which uses lots of water, and cryptocurrency mining. These are all in addition to data centers. Our ordinance right now doesn't really make much of a distinction in terms of the scale of an operation. For the most part, there are a few instances where it does. We do have data processing and computer centers, including incidental service and maintenance of electronic data processing equipment, listed as permitted use in our LI1 district. Anticipated use for that was likely a modestly sized building that supported internet infrastructure when it was first added to the ordinance.
I think it's in the IRO district right now.
Oh, IRO. I'll verify. I thought it was.
Yeah, I think it's IRO, and then you can do anything.
Yeah, you can do anything in the IRO.
But
in
it
the
is
LI1.
in the IRO.
Is it SLU or permitted?
It's permitted
Permitted.
right now. Sorry about interrupting.
No problem. So looking at data centers specifically, there are a lot of categories that these fall into based typically on their size. So you have accessory data centers. These are pretty standard. They might be a closet in your office. These are not something we're going to regulate as a separate use. They're just part of an office or an industrial facility as a pretty standard thing these days. And they're serving only the use they share the property with. Generally, they're in the same building with that use. Then you have kind of a stair step of small, medium, large, and hyperscale data centers. Now, there are multiple definitions of each of these tiers out there, and some have 3 and some have 4. So it's not like there's one standard way of looking at these centers, but typically what you find when you see breakdowns of the sizes is there is a electrical load that distinguishes one level from another, and oftentimes there's also a square footage. Hyperscale usually is over 200,000 square feet. Very, very large facility. And it's usually using a very large amount of electricity as well. Typically, we're looking over 20 megawatts, but it's a large facility, and it's using, you know, a large amount of electricity, and the water consumption could also be high. There are closed loop and open loop systems. So closed loop systems use less water, but they use more electricity because you've got to cycling your closed loop system. So wherever you're using water, of course, you're also producing wastewater. So it's another consideration. There are other terms that you'll see out there: edge data centers, enterprise data centers. I've actually seen enterprise data centers defined multiple ways. So these terms, again, are not particularly standardized. Most of the large projects that you've heard about are putting aside some land as open space. Example sites in Howell Township and Saline Township both include open space as part of their overall plan. I believe the Howell Township site is 250 acres. So when we think about concerns related to very large data centers, a lot of them are the same concerns that we have with other high-intensity industrial uses: energy consumption, water consumption, wastewater production, backup power generation, and the pollution that can come from that backup power generation if you're using fossil fuel sources. Sound and vibration from cooling equipment, because cooling this stuff is what uses the bulk of the power, really. You've got to keep these things from overheating, and it just takes a lot of energy. The land used for hyperscale centers and other very large industrial uses, that reduces land for other uses, and that can include agriculture when you're in a rural community. That's one of the things that they're grappling with in places like Howell Township and Saline Township, Springfield Township, also Washington. Is it's going to take up a lot of land, and that land comes out of circulation for anything else. Also, emergency services, potential for fire when you do have these high temperatures. If you have some sort of cooling system failure, that obviously increases the chance that you're going to have some sort of incident. And then also there's a long-term viability element to this that I think doesn't get discussed very much. Computing needs are only going to grow, but obsolescence comes quickly in this field. When you install these chips in these centers, they are a rapidly depreciating asset. You cannot resell them again in the future because they will have been outpaced by what comes next. So these centers are probably going to have a lot of update activity over the course of their lives as new technologies become available. Ultimately, things may get smaller physically. That's what computing technology tends to do over time, so you get the same capacity with less surface area, or the surface area simply gets crammed into a smaller volume in the case of a chip. But that is another thing just to have in the back of your mind, is that, you know, this is the first generation of these things, and subsequent generations are going to look different. They will have different technology platforms that they're taking advantage of. That could ultimately change what these centers look like in the future. It could change their footprint. It could change many other things about them. And you know, there's a lot of dimensions to that. Everything from quantum computing to the simple, you know, Moore's law that computing power increases at a certain kind of steady rate over time. Looking at data centers and other intense industrial uses with relation to zoning, always useful to keep in mind that, as with any other legal use, the township doesn't have the option to simply ban any of these things. We also have to be able to demonstrate a compelling public interest in any regulations we do adopt that pertain to these facilities. This is part of the reason that we're not just talking about data centers. We're talking about the wider universe of high-intensity industrial uses, because a lot of those externalities are similar across those uses. Of course, there are variations depending on what uses you're talking about. But we can't simply say, nope, we're not going to have these. Nobody can come to us to ask for it. That's not consistent with the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act or the Zoning Enabling Acts of really any other state. Furthermore, zoning regulations that are related to the use of land may not be able to address every concern on their own. If there are other kind of peripheral concerns that aren't directly related to the use of land, there may be a need for those to be addressed in a general ordinance that falls under police powers rather than under zoning. So zoning may not wind up being the full conversation here. I know that there are a lot of concerns about transparency around these very large projects, whether it be a battery factory or a data center, where township officials have been asked to sign NDAs and things like that. And I know that a lot of transparency advocates have been very against that. But a zoning ordinance can't prevent NDAs from being used. That has to be done through police powers ordinance. So there's a few things like that that potentially might fall well outside our zoning discussion. Another thing that would fall outside of zoning is something along the lines of a benefits ordinance that requires certain benefits be given to the municipality in exchange for a use of a certain scale of being allowed in that municipality. There are a few jurisdictions that have community benefits ordinances in Michigan. I will try to provide the document to you all, but the Washtenaw County has a guide to dealing with some of these issues that they've distributed to their communities. Of course, that's where Singing Township is. So I'll try to get that to you. I do have a digital copy of it, so that you can kind of go through that and see what it says to you. So, just thinking about what our course of action and discussion looks like.
Can I, before you get to that, can I ask you a question about the list? For companies that are, or conglomerates that are looking to cite some of these high-intensity uses, I mean, the more traditional ones like steel manufacturing, auto manufacturing, I would think you typically want to be close to transportation where you can, get your products in and out. I think that some of these on this list they need to be close to a water source because of the nature of their business. But what else causes, what makes a location?
Well, we talked about energy consumption, and every, hyperscale data center that's been proposed in Michigan so far has been proximal to a transmission line, a major transmission line. So where you have right-of-way that's dedicated to a major transmission line, which we do have one in the southeast corner of the township, and it is adjacent to our LI1 zoning district. It basically is the northern boundary of our LI1 zoning district, and then it comes down, it turns south near M53. And it runs parallel to M53 down through Washington Township, pretty much all the way down. So that's one thing. Access to water resources is definitely another one. For a lot of these uses, power plants in particular, they cycle water in through their power plants and typically discharge it, back out. The temperature of that water when it goes back out is a big deal ecologically. So from that perspective, we do have a fair number of these uses that fairly unlikely to be interested in a place like Bruce Township just because of our graphical disposition. And some that wouldn't be a barrier.
Got a question for you, Joe. My current understanding is that these data centers, no matter what quantity of water they use, whatever they discharge needs to go into a sanitary sewer system.
That's correct.
It's explained to me is there's anti-corrosion additives in the cooling water.
Yeah, that's what keeps the pipes safe from degradation over time. Exactly.
Yeah, I know there was some talk about persons that had asked me about, well, this is going to be, they're just going to discharge the stuff in the stream. And I says, I don't believe they can.
No, they can't. It does have to go into a sanitary system. For us, the question would be, the capacity of our sanitary system is limited. Yeah. And is likely not there for an operation of that scale. Stone cutting is another one where the amount of water that would discharge into the wastewater system, we simply can't handle it.
Unless somebody wants to pay to build.
Unless somebody wants to build another treatment plant.
I think we do have a stone cutting facility within the township currently.
Where?
It's what's the road that goes along? Is it or something? The McVicker. Yeah, McVicker. North end of McVicker.
Oh, yeah. But isn't that for some household use?
Countertop.
Countertops, yeah.
They're still probably using a lot of water. And a well or a water system. Burn through a well pretty quick. But I don't know what the situation is there. But
That is interesting. Good
those facilities do use a lot, because to protect the saw, you have to have water constantly running.
So in places, this is probably a stupid question, but I don't know too much about Saline or Howell, where the current big ones, even, are they connected, or can they be connected to a municipal water source there? Or how are they getting the water?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. For Howell, Saline, I think there is a municipal source.
But if it was a closed system, they wouldn't need access to that, would they?
If it was a closed system, they would need far less. They still need some source of water, because you do have to eventually replenish the water in a closed system. But yes, it is a much, much, much lower burden on the water system.
So that may be what they're doing there.
Maybe, I don't know.
I think they are doing closed system, and I think they're proposing a closed system for both of the facilities. Lyon Township also has one that's actually been approved because it was a permitted use in the location where it was proposed. It's right along I-96. It also has an electrical corridor running right through it. So it kind of had everything they needed. It had the zoning, it had the electrical, it had municipal wastewater and here. Yeah, I mean, there are, you know, a lot of things that are still, like, we don't know long-term what these facilities are necessarily going to look like. 5 years from now, this could be a completely different conversation. So, you know, not so much with some of these uses that have been around for a long time. You need a certain footprint to do auto manufacturing. You need a certain footprint to do, you know, heavy metallurgy and things like that. That's just, it's pretty well established what you need. But for these, you know, more cutting edge uses, battery storage, data centers, they could be extremely different and not very distant future. I mean, battery storage facilities already are quite different from what I think people thought they were going to be even 5 years ago before they started getting built. For one thing, the battery technology that's typically used in them is lithium iron phosphate, which is not a very high fire risk. When they were first proposed, the batteries that were being proposed for use in them were a much higher fire risk than the batteries that are being implemented now. So that changes the emergency services profile of those facilities a lot. And in the future, the newer batteries that replace those batteries are likely to be even lower fire risk. So, you know, that's going to be a different conversation too. That's kind of one of the things to keep in mind with the new technology uses, is that they are very rapidly evolving. And we're going to have this conversation now, and we're going to do something in our zoning ordinance, most likely, to address these things, but it's not going to be the end of the conversation, because it may be that in 3 or 4 years, we have to look back at them again and say, all right, here's what we have in place, here's how things have changed, what do we need to do now?
What's carbon capture project? How would you describe that?
Carbon capture is in my opinion, dubious technology that attempts to sequester carbon dioxide before it enters the atmosphere, or to pull carbon dioxide from the atmosphere in order to mitigate the effects of carbon dioxide on climate change. And it's not a proven technology, let me put it that way. It is a technology that currently requires more resources to accomplish than it saves in terms of capture. There are lots of people working on it around the world. I don't know that it's necessarily ever going to be a truly viable thing. But it is something that, you know, potentially could be, you know, you could have some sort of experimental facility built somewhere in Michigan at some point. Whether or not that will happen, I don't know. I don't think it's a promising technology. Based on everything I've read and seen about it, to me, it feels like a kind of a dead end.
So basically, they take carbon, supercool it into a liquid form, transport it by pipeline is usually their goal, and then to put it into wells into the ground.
Exactly.
That's basically what they're doing. But like you said, I mean, it's dubious at best.
It takes a
It's a
ton of
boondoggle.
energy to,
Yeah.
to cool it in the first place, and then you have to use energy to ship it through the pipeline. It's coming from industrial facilities, generally speaking.
Work my hands, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of is self-negating.
Yeah. Also, with any of these, I mean, large data centers or any of the other uses, are emissions a concern?
They can be. With data centers in particular, it's the backup power sources that can be the problem. I don't know if you've heard about the facility in Memphis that supports Grok AI, but it's running methane generators, and the air quality in the adjacent neighborhoods is much, much lower than it was before those generators were fired up. It's just not a question as to whether or not fossil fuel-based power generation creates emissions. It does. It's just a matter of kind of what technologies are being used. Natural gas is, I think, the most typical backup power source for these. I mean, there are some that use solar arrays and things as well as a backup power source. Some of them have battery storage facilities on site as well. Yeah, natural gas is kind of the go-to, and that's going to produce some external effects.
I think there's a lot of interest in SMRs for data centers as well, as those are perfected and manufactured.
Sure.
SMRs, David?
Small module reactors
Okay, yeah.
built in a, basically an industrial setting that are not like regular nuclear reactors.
Yeah.
They're very small, they don't use a lot of resources, no carbon at all.
The Navy's been using them for decades on its ships.
You start talking, poking around your phone, obviously stuff starts coming in, pro and con regarding data centers. I'm starting to get more of this pro stuff coming in now. And, one of the articles, they said that they're encouraging use of geothermal versus just wasting the heat.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to, have more efficient.
In Norway and Sweden, there are a couple of projects where they're using the heat that's produced by the data center as district heating for the town that the data center is on the edge of. The relatively compact nature of the built environment in those towns aids that, of course. The Detroit metropolitan area has probably pretty limited opportunities for district heating outside of downtown Detroit where it already exists. But there is thinking about how to take advantage of some of these negative, effects of these uses and actually turn it into a positive. So, for those towns, those centers are actually going to be probably reducing people's heating bills, which, hey, that's a great thing for those people. Here, I don't think there's much potential for that, and we do have to be mindful of the fact that increased energy consumption, even though you're not allowed to raise people's rates in response to a particular user, it can have downstream effects that could ultimately, cause rates to rise across a service area. Just because you have that much more consumption. If you take all of the proposed data centers in Michigan and you compare them to the output capacity of DTE right now, the math doesn't really math. They need more energy than we really got available. So power plants that, were going to be taken offline may wind up having their service lives extended specifically for this use, which of course has associated operating costs, which have to get passed somewhere.
We're bringing 3 Mile Island back online.
So what does this all mean for us?
Right. What this means for us is looking at how we could adopt standards. And we are allowed to adopt standards for particular uses if we feel that, again, there's a compelling governmental interest in having regulations for those uses. Our zoning ordinance has a number of them right now. So we may be looking at developing data center specific regulations. And we also may be looking at our overall industrial and coming up with some sort of set of standards that speaks to the resource consumption aspect of those uses and imposes some sort of approval conditions on those uses based on that resources.
Not just though resource consumption, it's also, I think, that the output.
Yes, yeah.
Right, I mean, I've read things that where these big data centers are, it's like a droning noise that's constant.
It's from the cooling equipment.
Right, and you can hear it 2 miles away.
Yep.
So we can address both, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and strictly speaking, you know, we already have some regulations on things like that, noise, vibration, and our performance standards, but
I don't think they anticipated something that can drone for, you know, you can hear it that far away.
sure, yeah, I mean, not generally. But that's the kind of thing we need to be looking at.
So before you even get to that point, when I look at the list that you gave us, several of these things would fall within what I would term heavy industrial.
Yes.
Right, and right now, we've got a definition of heavy industrial.
We do.
I know we tinkered with it a little bit. I don't know if it's enough to capture all this, and right now it's tucked in as a special land use in the LI1 district, right? So we would have to, I'm assuming, determine where some of these newer things are, where they need to be slotted. To me, even though it's got all the verbiage around it that it's high tech and this and this and that, to me, I don't think it was what we anticipated when we designed our IRO district.
No, I think the IRO district was intended to be more accommodating to things like research and development, which are more traditional workplaces.
Yes.
That's the one thing about the data centers and cryptocurrency mining and battery storage facilities is they occupy land, but hardly anyone works there. They really are not heavily staffed facilities. Now, my speculation is that a data center is probably going to have staff on site somewhat frequently to perform things like maintenance or replacement of equipment, because it's going to need to happen. But you won't have that day-to-day 50 people working there. It's probably going to be a much smaller group than that.
And when you look at just, I mean, the plethora of pictures that are online, which aren't the data center in the closet or the little, adjunct to a single business, they look like heavy industrial. I mean,
Sure.
they can be nice looking buildings, but they're massive.
Well, yeah, if you have a hyperscale facility that's more than 200,000 square feet, it's pretty hard to miss. You just
So
can't.
to the
get
extent
around it.
that we have to have a place in our ordinance to entertain any application, or hear any applications that come in under state law, I suppose at the outset, one of the early things would be to determine where they be slatted.
Right.
Unless,
Also a tier system of, small might be okay in a lot of different places, whereas hyperscale is a more sui generis thing that needs certain locational requirements, and also, there's only so many places they can go, you know? We don't really have the land.
I say, we don't really have the land that is like the one that's being proposed to the south of us.
Right.
Oh, we could come close.
So how do we
Following, but
not even mention data centers and build safeguards for the township? Like, how do we do that without slowing down the application process? You know, like, we don't want it to be too cumbersome for the normal business that comes, but we want to protect ourselves if something's really out of scale.
I mean, I think we can build a set of, we can define things into heavy industrial, and we can build a set of standards for heavy industrial. I do think that because of some of the unique aspects of this particular use, we can also adopt use regulations.
Okay.
Like I said, we've got use regulations, a whole article of our ordinance. We talked about some of them tonight for the places of worship. So the burden on us is to demonstrate our compelling governmental interest in doing that.
Okay.
And I think that's where part of our discussion is to lay down the paper trail. What is our compelling governmental interest? And you put that right in the ordinance. That's your introductory paragraph to that section, is due to X, 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 and X, the township finds that it is necessary to adopt the following regulations. Here they are. And as long as they're not overly burdensome or unrelated to trying to mitigate those concerns that you've outlined at the beginning of that section of the ordinance, you're probably going to be in pretty good shape. You know, you can't adopt a regulation just because you feel like it, I guess. You know, you do have to justify it. But I think there is justification, and I do think that we can outline that justification in a way that will be that will work in an ordinance. And that goes for both heavy industrial generally and for data centers individually.
So how do you, oh, I'm sorry, Jared, you didn't finish. I think you were asking the question about how to proceed.
yeah, same question, I think. Next steps, what are we doing?
Well, I think what we have to do is a couple things. One is we need a policy direction, and we need draft text. Those are the two things that ultimately lead us to an outcome. So policy direction can kind of be developed in tandem with the text in this case. I think we have a certain degree of urgency here to make sure that we're equipped for the world we're living in. So I think what I will do for your next meeting in February is I will pull together, and it's not as though there's nothing to draw from. There's plenty of ordinance text out there, you know, to get your teeth into, to use as a basis for this. Cohocton Township is one that has developed some language. Actually, we're working on some for Springfield Township right now. So I can have some draft language for the heavy industrial and data centers as a use for you in February to look at, and we can then kind of go through that and pick that apart, determine if this is all headed in the right direction, what we might need to do to redirect, and, you know, ultimately we're going to be getting something to the board. But we'll sort of have to see how we feel after the next meeting to know if we're going to get something to the board, when we're going to get something to the board.
Right.
It could be as soon as March if we're very comfortable. It could be later than that if we've got more adjustment to do.
So is this something that some of us who've been kind of, like Mandy and Rick in particular, me less so, is this something that we can be helping with in the interim?
Potentially, yeah.
So, I mean, I know this must put a lot of pressure.
I mean, yeah, obviously, I've got to come up with something. It's a big issue, but we've been talking about it nonstop for the last like 4 months in our office, so it's not like I haven't, read everything out there.
Good to hear.
It's partly a matter of figuring out what the tiers are and things like that. And then just coming up with the right level of regulation for them. I just did battery energy storage.
So am I
For
right
another
assuming that
community.
Giffords basically, they have a style guide that includes like boilerplate text where you can propose that to be included for the multiple municipalities that you service?
It's sort of, yeah. I mean, every community is different, so it's never quite the same text. But generally speaking, we have a well we can draw from. Yeah. So if we're doing parking regulations for rural community, we know that we've got like a little assortment of parking regulations we've already done for other rural communities.
Question, does Giffords have lawyers on staff?
We don't have attorneys on staff, no, but the township has
Right,
attorneys.
and that kind of leads to my question. We can do all this work and, feel comfortable about it and propose it, and the board could very well accept it. I know we can't protect ourselves from a lawsuit because, there's always somebody who wants to, proceed along that lines. But what assurance do we have that whatever we come up with is going to pass, that it's the best possible thing that we have out there and that we don't have anything in there that is like, oh geez, that kind of set us up.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's reviewed by those attorneys. These are the people who are going to be representing you in a certain court, so you want them to be comfortable
Do
with the
they,
language.
right, do they, given the nature of this and how fast-moving it is it something that they would be engaged on? Well, this is still before the PC, so we have a chance to adjust.
Yeah, oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think they should see it before the February meeting. That way they can kind of say, okay, well, this is heading in the right direction, but get rid of that.
Okay. So takeaways is you will start to draft some proposed language, potentially leverage members of the PC as needed, namely Rick and Mandy, if you are both willing to
Yes.
be involved.
Sure.
And then in terms of Anne Marie's questions, that's something you would run by township legal team or work through Dana to do?
Yeah, I run
Before.
it through the township.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always,
Okay.
before I incur legal fees for the
Sure.
township, I always send it through the staff.
Yeah.
So I can't thank the board enough for enacting the moratorium, because that puts us in a much better position than some of these other communities have been in, where they got an application, or it sounds like Lyon Township, I mean, they probably just got a site plan.
They did, because it was a permitted use, and they got a site plan, and it met the standards, so they approved it. And then they had a whole bunch of angry citizens come out 2 months later.
Well, yeah.
Which,
The new hotspot is Mason, Michigan.
oh yeah, sure. Yeah, there's, it won't be the last. I mean, it's kind of amazing how quickly this is moving. it wasn't even a thing 2 years ago. And
Well,
then it was a West Coast thing very briefly, and now it's everywhere.
Yeah. It's interesting because in all the discussions we had when we updated the industrial ordinance, that was like 18 months ago.
Yep.
None of this stuff.
This wasn't even
Wasn't a
on
thing.
our radar.
Nope.
Just
Okay. Good discussion. Any other comments from commissioners before we move on to our annual report? All right. So with that, we have our 2025 annual report that Joe crafted.
gotta wake up my computer. I did receive the comments that Commissioner Boyce provided. Thank you for those. I have incorporated all of those into the draft. You don't have a copy with those changes incorporated, but they are in there. So if there are any additional comments, questions tonight, we can get those incorporated as well.
Any other comments or edits any commissioners have?
We had a lot done last year.
It was a busy year. There's a lot in here.
It was really, and when it struck me when I looked at it, I guess I kind of knew this, but we did it in 10 meetings.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, some of them were really long.
At the beginning of the year, yeah, we had a couple meetings that were canceled, and we were like, oh, this is kind of a laid-back year so far, and then
Yeah.
wham, it was just not laid back anymore, all of a sudden.
I just want to share, I'm thankful to be able to work with a team that I really believe puts the time in to discuss these issues at length. And, I think the outcomes that we end up with, I feel very comfortable with. And, I know we go longer than, sometimes it's comfortable with doing so, but, again, I'm very pleased with opportunity to work with each one of you.
Thanks, Rick.
You too, Joe.
I have a quick question. Amory, I didn't read your edits. This does not have your edits on it, is that right?
Correct.
So we did
Yes.
add in May.
Yes.
That-
Yep.
That email, yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure.
Yep, that was added in, and then there were a couple square footages or numbers that were adjusted. Christina's crossing was
Yeah.
added, a couple things like that.
Okay.
It was pretty minor stuff.
Joe, do we have to do anything to kind of vote or accept this, or is it just,
Yes, you would vote to accept it and forward it to the board. The board will receive and file it.
okay? Somebody like to make a motion to accept and forward the 2025 annual report as amended to the board?
I will make a motion to accept the 2025 annual report as amended and request that it be forwarded to the board for their review and filing.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Boyce, second by Commissioner D. Vincent. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Lisa, I will send the updated version to you and Dana tomorrow.
All right, that wraps up item 11, new business, comments from committees and consultants. We're all set there. Any other comments from commissioners? Hearing none.
Well, this correspondence we have,
Oh.
notice to mankind.
was interesting.
What is the purpose of it? I mean,
Notice to mankind.
Didn't see that one, did you?
No.
It was in your packet. I think there was I interpreted that as a letter from a local resident who was against data center.
Yeah, that's the way I read it.
Format was
he
a little unusual.
presented
different.
similar at the Washington Township Planning Commission.
Okay. Noted.
Well, I mean, I think it certainly, we can't out-ban them, but, I mean, but I certainly think it is reflective of the sentiment and concern that a lot of people have, rightly so.
Yes. And what we can do as a group is the best we can. And, that means that, we put the thought and time into it, and we adopt what we can adopt, and, move forward on that basis.
Yep. All right, I would make a motion to adjourn at 8:18 PM.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Cant. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.